Sproutright and leannephillipson.com. I'm just gonna wait a couple of minutes till I get chopping and check in with you guys, where I'm live on Facebook and also on Instagram. So hello to you both. You've got a slightly different view, I think. This is the first time I've done Facebook Live and Instagram Live. So thank you so much for being here. You can type in any questions that you have for me about recipes for you and your family. Let me know how you're doing. My daughters and I are in self-isolation after getting back from our trip yesterday. So while we followed along closely with everything that was going on, then we are now in day one. So you might have been doing this a little bit longer than us. So how are you doing? I might have a fresh perspective on this and not day 5 or day 10 or whatever it is that you guys are dealing with right now. So so hit me up with whatever questions you've got. Know that I'm going to be here maybe every day. I'm going to try and do this every day, definitely till the end of the week, to give you some inspiration. So every day I'll send out my newsletter and put on social media what the recipe is for that day, and hopefully you'll be able to rummage around in your cupboards to find whatever it is that I'm going to make. I've got a couple of things planned, but I have to make sure that I have everything, or can adapt everything, because we're in self-isolation. So I'm relying on other people to bring us the foods that we need. So today I'm going to make one of the fantastic recipes which I've made for such a long time in my new book, Sproutright Family Food. And this one, if you have the book, is on page 286. So this is the Salmon Burgers. And while we've dressed this up for the book in a beautiful burger bun and all of that, we actually normally eat these maybe with some sweet potato fries or some lemony green beans, and we don't actually have it with a bun. So whether you want to do a bun or not is totally up to you. Don't feel like you need to, because once I've fried these up, then they'll be good to go. So I'm actually going to make half a batch, because in my cupboard I'm limited again to what I have. So I really am in this self-isolation situation working with what I've got. So I'm going to adapt a little bit, and I'm also going to have the recipe, because it's myself and my 2 daughters. So we don't actually need to make that much food, and I don't have that many tins anyway. So you can use some leftover salmon or any kind of fish that you like to make these salmon burgers. Just swap out salmon for tuna if your family prefers tuna, or maybe you have some leftover tilapia or sole or something like that. That's probably actually a really delicate fish to put into this. But what I've done so far is I've got the ingredients here. I know that in some of the shots you can't see everything, but I've got my cast iron frying pan over here on sort of like a medium heat or so. I did have some coconut oil right here that I'm just gonna pop a little bit in, so it's gonna melt while I'm getting this recipe prepared. And this is a perfect thing for any of your family to do. You can get your kids involved with this one. So just putting a little bit of coconut oil into my pan. Feel free to use olive oil if you prefer that as a stable oil. I don't think I've ever used butter for it, but you can. And beauty, of course, of coconut oil is my hands feel lovely after. So into my bowl, I'm going to put in I do actually have salmon. I've made these with tuna lots and lots of times. And this is Safe Catch brand that I buy, because I know that everything that goes into their cans have a lot less contaminants than most. So you can get whatever you have, use whatever you have, use whatever you can get your hands on right now. It doesn't really matter, but this is probably my favorite and my best case scenario, and honestly what I happen to have in the cupboard at the time. So 2 cans of this is what I'm using, because I don't happen to have any fresh or anything left over. And just kind of break it up, because you know when it comes out of the can, it's like been cooked in there and it's all kind of hard and stuff like that. So I just use a fork. If you want to use a potato masher, you can do anything like that too. Now, as I'm going along, I've got my co-pilot, my daughter Logan, behind the scenes. So Logan's going to shout out any questions that you guys might have because we've got the cameras turned around so that I can just focus on this. Have we got anything asked yet? And we've got anyone that we know online live at the moment? No, not yet. Okay, so whenever you're watching this, if it's not live right now, because this is the first day that I'm doing this, and also because I just sort of decided after on our trip back, so I didn't give everybody a lot of notice about doing this. So I know that this video is going to be really useful for you at a later date. Share it with your kids, get them making this with you. So that's the sort of broken up version of the 2 cans that I've got here, and you can really adapt these to whatever it is that everybody likes to. Everybody likes, really. That's all there is to it. So now I have one. The recipe calls for a green onion. This is my rather sad looking green onion that was in the bottom of my fridge. So I'm going to make the most of it. If you really have absolutely nothing, and I'm going to just sort of cut it in half to try and make it go a little bit further. If you really have absolutely nothing like this, maybe try some dried onion. You could also try just some red onion and chop it up finely. You could use a shallot. Actually, I think I might have some shallots. You could really just take any kind of onion, and if you're super stuck, maybe just use some celery if you have that hanging around too. So this is definitely a time to try and be as adaptable as possible with what you're making. So the recipe calls for about 1/4 cup. So this is a little bit on the slight side. Oops, that's my thumb. A little bit on the slight side. So, but that's okay because I'm going to have all the other ingredients in here. And now this also calls for 1/3 cup of parsley or cilantro, which I definitely don't have. No fresh cilantro. That was not on my list of ingredients for my lovely friend Kelly to be able to pick up for me on our return. So I still want some greens in there. So you don't necessarily have to tell your kids about this, or you can. I'm going to throw some spinach in there just to get some extra nutrients and leafy greens going on and to bulk it out a little bit. I'll probably end up with a little bit too much, but these are quite forgiving on the front of, you can kind of, as long as you get the right amount of oats and eggs going in here, then we've got a little bit of forgiveness going on. So you can rip this up, you can chop it up. One of my favorite ways to, if I don't have a sharp enough knife or anything like that, is to also just use some scissors, because that's a really easy way to chop up your herbs, to chop up your spinach, to chop up your kale if you happen to have anything. Just try and get some greens in. This is where a lot of the antioxidants are, which really help to boost our immune system, which help to give us a lot more nutrients. And all those kind of colors that your kids may be a little bit resistant to, or adults might be a little bit resistant to too. So sometimes that does happen. So we're looking at about 1/2 of a cup. So I got my 1/4 cup here, so I'm just going to kind of eyeball a little less than 1/4 cup. So that kind of thing looks pretty good. In that goes. And then because the recipe is for parsley or for cilantro, and I'd like a little bit of taste to go in there, you know what, I'm just going to throw that in anyway. Then I'm going to add in some dill. So salmon and dill, of course, go really well together. And I'm just going to put a little pinch into this comme ça. Just kind of guess, use a teaspoon if you're someone that needs an absolute measurement. So I've got that going on there. Now, because I'm making half of the recipe, then it would normally be 1/4 cup of mayonnaise, but in this case I'm going to do 1/8 cup of mayonnaise. And this is my little trick of how to measure this out, because you got to figure out all the numbers and all those kind of things when you're doing this. So I've got 1/8 cup in here. My little measuring cup has that much, and then I'm going to top the rest up with the grainy mustard. Now this gives us such a great flavor, having the grainy mustard in there. I go through so much grainy mustard, actually. I love using it. So that makes up 1 full quarter cup. And I know that, again, because I'm having the recipe, then this is the recipe. This is the size of the recipe that I actually make all the time. So that's good. Okay, so that's that going in, and I've forgotten how much oats I need to put in. So let me go back to the original recipe, which is 1/2 cup. So I need 1/4 cup because I'm having it again. So I'm going to reuse this. Now I'm going to use this again, which is why I'm putting my hands in. I'm going to make some. My youngest daughter is going to make some blender pancakes next, as we're going to put that up on a video for you guys. So we're going to use that. And that would definitely be one for your kids to watch, because, you know, when kids are watching other kids making foods, then that makes a really big difference. Okay, so I've got that going on in there. And then the last one, second to last one, is 1 tablespoon of fresh lemon juice, which I don't have. I have 1 lemon left, which I'm saving for my morning lemon, and then 1 egg. So again, full recipe would call for 2 eggs. So in goes the egg. Eggs were definitely on my list of please get for us, because I use so many eggs. And then we're just gonna mix that up. And then this is the basic mixture of the fish cakes. Now the oats give it lots of fiber, helps everybody to keep with loads of fiber, and helps them to keep going, and just gives a bit of a different, you know, if it's gluten-free that you're after, you can use some other grain if you want, but most people tend to do oats. And then you end up with a bit of a sticky kind of batter, if you can see what this is and what this looks like. You can add in a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, which I will do. I've got some lovely Himalayan salt here. A little bit of that, a little bit of pepper. I'm going to check my cast iron frying pan and see how that's looking. Just going to turn it up a little bit now that I'm ready to go. And these really brown fairly quickly, basically really because the salmon or the tuna, whatever it is that you're using, is already cooked. Then we're really just kind of cooking the egg through on this. So here it is. These and my wayward oats. So then you can make these as large or small as you want. I tend to kind of still do everything kind of small-ish size. So that's the kind of salmon burger size that I make. Obviously, if you're going to put this into a bun, you want it to be much, much bigger. But that kind of size is what I do. And that's really as long as it takes to put these together. So let me make a couple up and get them in the frying pan while I make the rest of these up. And you can make these well in advance. You can stick them in the fridge, cook them up later. You can cook up the whole batch. You can freeze them. Such a versatile recipe. So there's a couple that are ready to go into the frying pan. Just gonna stick this guy back together. Sometimes they do fall apart a little bit, so they need to set quite well before I'm going to be ready to flip them over. Just moving that coconut oil around. I don't know if you can see that or not, but they're in there. Let's get them into the middle, because that's where most of the heat is. Have there been any questions coming in or anything yet, Logan? Okay. So, your immunity. Let's talk a little bit about that. So, right now, everybody's pretty stressed. Everybody's probably a little frazzled, quite a bit in fear. All of these things are going on. Please know that that stress really can suppress your immune system as well. So it's quite important that while comfort foods are probably more what you're going for right now than what you would tend to, or the structure of your life right now, whereas your kids would go off to school, they would eat regularly, you would eat regularly, not kind of graze all day long and have all sorts of different snacks or opportunities for snacks, or you're just feeling really frazzled, and then you head to the freezer for the ice cream and the sweets or the chocolates or the chips or anything like that. So please know that when you have foods like this, when you have them available, when you make time, you've got more time now. If you're in isolation or you're staying at home, there's not that many people who are at work with the state of the situation with the COVID virus right now, depending on when you happen to be watching that. That's where we are right now. In Toronto, where I am, we're in what they call a state of emergency, so only essential services are still running, and a lot of businesses have had to close. So that does mean that a lot of us are at home and have a little bit more time to make something like this. So my assistant's telling me to check the fish cakes, which I will in a minute because I've only got one more to make, and then I'm gonna go rinse my hands, and then I'm going to go and flip them. Now, like I said, they kind of really only need to brown on that side, and it's really just the egg that we're cooking through, because the fish that I'm using is already cooked, so it's actually quite a fast one to do. So depending on the size of your family, I've just made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 7 of them. This guy, little last guy, is probably somebody who wants like 1.5 burgers. So let me just wash my hands, which I've done a million times in the last however many days, especially as we were traveling. And let me take a peek. I did have looking good, nice and brown. That one fell apart a bit, so just put it back together a little bit. Make sure that there's the oil under there to keep them going. Oh, they're gonna be so pretty. Now, obviously the salmon, if you've got resistant eaters to things like fish, this is a great place to put it if they're really not too sure. If your kids are not too sure, or adults, because they don't always like fish either, then this going into a bun with some lettuce and some onion and a dill pickle, whatever it is that you fancy, then it sort of opens up a whole new opportunity. So while you think, no, nobody's gonna have this at my home, nobody likes this, nobody likes tuna, this is a whole new adventure in food. So while some people may say, no, I'm not gonna try this, just give it a go. Just use those 2 cans and see what everybody thinks of it. We get a fresh plate out for these 2, just so that I can show you kind of what you're looking for before I put the others back in again. And presto, we have 2. The other ones will be ready. I'll put that off to the side so I can keep talking to you. So here we have the 2 lovely fish cakes, and like I said, you can put them in a bun if you want. I don't tend to eat too much bread a lot of the time anyway, so I don't tend to do this. I pile on maybe some salad or some spinach, some extra spinach or anything like that on top of this, and any sauce that you like, if you want ketchup on it or anything like that, and make it like a burger, and then put a side on it. In my book, I have the rather famous for my sweet potato fries. You can just steam up some broccoli if you've got any of that. If right now you're a little low on the fresh produce, then of course always you can use anything frozen. Peas, corn, carrots are really great, sugar snap peas, green beans, frozen spinach, frozen kale, like anything that you can find in your freezer that resembles a vegetable, resembles some different colors, and all of those things we really want to try and get from our food. You know, I've got my supplements. I've got the Kid Boost. I've got the Skin Boost, which are super food powder to make up for those times when we're not getting enough nutrients and we're not getting enough antioxidants in, and we're really trying to trying to boost our system as much as possible, support our systems as much as possible, because we want a really an immune system that can handle whatever it is that's coming at us right now. Obviously, the COVID virus is the big one that we want to avoid, which means that keeping up with our vitamin C, especially with our vitamin D. So I have the Sunshine D3 K2 spray. That's so important. I've got an immune boosting package on sproutright.com. Feel free to check that out to see a lot more. I've got loads of videos on sproutright.com too if you want any more information, or just post below this if you're feeling like you're needing more information about immune boosting. But it all starts with food. So over the next few days, over the next week, I'll be coming back on here and sharing some other recipes for you and your family to be able to try something new if you haven't already. I already know a couple of people posted that these are a staple in their family. So if this is a recipe that you haven't tried yet, then please do, because it could become the new favorite. And you saw how long it took me to make it to be a complete meal for your whole family. And depending on how many cans you use, it's not too expensive either. All right, thank you so much for watching after the fact, for watching and being on live. If you have any other questions, do please reach out. Let me know if there's a recipe in particular that you want me to make. Then I can show you how to do that, or I'll just keep on throwing them out at you and give you some new inspiration. So stay strong, stay safe, stay sane, and keep on reaching out and connecting. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Bye.